So here we are at Design Summit in Melbourne, and this is a teaming up, a partnership between TIS Online and the agency, of course, the Reading Room, and I'm really thrilled to have Trevor Naroy here and also Ian Laslett. Welcome to Ian and welcome to Trevor. Hi. What's TIS Online?
TIS Online is basically the ability for us to actually deliver services to our clients who want on-site interpreters, but do it really quickly and to be able to actually reduce what used to be a 21-day turnaround to basically a 2-hour turnaround to be able to book interpreters.
Okay, so how did it used to run? You say 21 days, what did you have to do?
Well, this was old school, you'd send a snail mail, smoke signals, whatever,
a pigeon.
A fax, and basically we would then have a stack of papers and forms and requests that would take forever to get through. And then eventually we'd try and call out to an interpreter. So for example, if you wanted an Arabic interpreter at a certain level, we'd have to physically make a phone call and try and get them. This caused many delays and cancellations and what have you. So moving this to an online capability was the only answer.
Okay, and I imagine there was a lot of frustration, a bit of anger, it wasn't done quickly, people complained, you needed to do something about this. So yes, moving it online was one option, but you had to do it properly. So why did you bring in the Reading Room?
Well, I think firstly, the strategy that the department adopted was that we were looking at moving English-speaking client agencies onto automation. We had to go down to looking at different channel options, and we went out to tender to find a technology partner that got it and would be able to work with us in a very quick time frame and deliver some outcomes. So before we actually got to this stage, we were able to create an online presence that was multilingual. Shock horror, we had actually had a website that catered to people who didn't speak English in English. So we had to address that first, and then we built TIS Online.
Okay, so you needed to find someone who got it, but I imagine you also needed to get it as well, so you needed to be a bit nimble and agile as how you moved. So we'll go to you now. What is it that you got about what this project needed to be?
Well, for us, it was really about service transformation. So the previous service and the way it operated was archaic, and we're an agency that really prides itself on, I guess, transforming businesses in the way they do their online service. So for us, it was important to get a client like this and to work very closely with the TIS team on their business transformation, because it's not just a design and build type project. It's really a complete business transformation. So the way that they operate and run their business, the aim was to completely transform that over the last couple of years, and that's what we've been able to achieve.
And you led them through that or assisted them through it? How did that process work?
Yeah, I mean, certainly it was a partnership, I'd say. From both sides. We worked very closely with their team on the transformation. We led the design and the technical aspects of the project, and they provided the business input and the knowledge about how the actual processes need to operate and those kinds of things. So it really did work very, very well as a partnership.
How far were they willing to go? I know, Trevor, you were saying you wanted to change. The idea was there, but did the Reading Room push you in places that you hadn't expected?
Yep. I think the relationship might have been the other way around. I think we were pushing Reading Room to actually give us outcomes that would actually serve in the short term, but also take us on a journey towards a particular destination. So this was really about changing the customer experience from a very obscure and old way of doing things, but also taking the department on the journey so that we could actually deliver this really quantum leap outcome. So we worked really well, and I think the pushing worked both ways. There were capabilities that could be delivered and some that couldn't, but there was also an appetite from us to go all the way.
And when you couldn't deliver certain things, are these outcomes that you're looking at in the future, or you simply go, I'll just wait, this is part of the process, it's an iteration, you'll get there eventually?
There was always phase 2.
Right. So where are we at now?
So we've finished phase 1, if you like, of the application development. We've made quite a few changes to improve it, because really what you imagine the service to be versus what you end up delivering can be quite different based on client feedback. And I'm very proud to say we're at 100% client uptake now. So I'm sure we're ready to change the game on them again.
Tell me a bit more about your experience in terms of designing this new experience, I should say. I mean, I used the word twice, but the experience that you've gone through working with an organisation like this that is keen to change and coming up with, an outcome, a deliverable.
Yeah, I mean, I think the design process was very iterative for us. I mean, we started with a really simple concept and a really basic, effectively just a basic website to begin with. And then what we worked on was the kind of, interaction elements where you're working on the form design, and then across to a full application, which is, you know, responsive across all your devices and able to be accessed anywhere and any time kind of thing. The big part behind the scenes, I guess, is a really smart kind of engine that manages all the bookings and effectively allocates them without any type of intervention. And that's probably the biggest part of the process and the whole thing, is building that kind of engine behind the scenes that manages it and takes out human intervention from the whole process and assigns people to the right jobs, the best qualified people to do the jobs as quickly as they can, kind of thing.
I think if I could just add to that, I think the strategy was to split it up into 3 stages or phases: inform, interact, and transact. The inform stage was about taking the information buried in the main immigration website and to pull it out and put it into persona-based views and to do the multilingual piece. The second was interact, which was allowing customers to get a sense of making requests of us and starting to get information from us. And then the third piece was transact, which is basically the building of the application. So that made the journey for the client and for the organization, plus also for the interpreters. We have contract interpreters who actually provide these services, so they had to get used to a new way of making themselves available and then selecting jobs as.
And how have they been? Has everybody come on board willingly, or has there been a bit of kicking and screaming to the new way of thinking?
Well, the interpreters have been asking for something like this for a very long time. So this was a very willing onboarding of our contractors. So I think we're up to about 90% of them are on board now, providing their services through this channel.
Okay.
So yeah.
And what's the end result? Can I have a scenario for how 21 days is that's a pretty big wait. Mm-hmm. That's pretty torturous, I've got to say. Yep. So what's the result now? Maybe an example that illustrates that really well.
Yep. I think a very, very quick example would be for a client. Imagine a hospital or a GP that actually wants to book an interpreter to arrive relatively urgently in the next few days. Previously, they'd make the request of us manually and wait and hope. Now they can make the request, and the automated system that Reading Room have helped us build is, as soon as the job is posted out to the cohort that are eligible to take the job, the first and best dressed interpreter can select a link on their mobile phone and immediately send a confirmation back to the client. So there are sometimes, in an emergency medical situation as well, you'd be able to actually make that sort of a request and get an interpreter fairly quickly. So it is a quantum change.
It's like the Uber for translation services. That involves a kind of a review aspect as well. Does that come into it? Sort of stars, reviews, customer feedback? How does that work?
I think in terms of customer feedback, we've had some huge and positive feedback because there was some reluctance more from our customers than from our interpreters before. And it was customers who, once they started to use it, because it was not simply just building an app and putting it out there, we did a lot of training, we did a lot of specific materials that would help customers understand how to navigate the application. And once they started to try it and get used to it, we had some pretty huge positive uptake.
And what's the next step, Ian? Can you see this app, this booking service, this even approach being translated or being used in other areas?
Yeah, I mean, certainly we're working with Trevor on a range of improvements across the other aspects of the TIS business, but also more broadly, I think across government, there's a lot of services that at the moment, you know, things like booking, citizenship appointments or booking any kind of government type appointments that potentially this type of system can be used for again. So that, you know, from our point of view, we'd love to share it more broadly, and it's certainly hopeful that we would do that.
Are you telling me no more screaming down the phone as you're trying to make a booking for something with the government, any department?
Yeah, I mean, that would be the ideal aim kind of thing. I mean, the booking engine's there, it's flexible, it's reusable kind of thing. So our aim is to roll it out more broadly where we can.
So from the Reading Room and, of course, the TIS agency, thank you so much. Great to see you both.
Thank you very much.